Welcome to Discover Week 8. We are going to review Step 10 tonight and unpack Step 10. Before we start, we'll go over our group rules. Number 1, respect the privacy of others. What's said here stays here. Number 2, we are not here to fix one another, so don't offer advice during group. Number 3, no crosstalk. Number 4, limit sharing time when contributing to the conversation, and please use the microphone to share. Now, on to Step 10. In one phrase is daily review. If that's an easy way for you to remember what Step 10 is, just daily review. AA Step 10 says, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And our Discover Step 10 says, reflect daily and own my mistakes. Step 10 introduces us to daily inventory as opposed to the lifelong inventory we were asked to tackle in Step 4. This daily review is done at the end of each day in order to reconcile the most recent history we have. So that's different than our other Step 4 inventory where it is years and years and maybe decades of inventory. This is just daily. So even if you haven't started on your Step 4 inventory, you can start doing Step 10 daily inventory easily. This Step 10, helps us understand and identify our ever-present ego's need to rule. Our egos are in opposition to our gratitude and belief of and in God. Just because one is sober doesn't mean our ego has died. Our egos are alive and well and in constant need for Step 10. So if you have Grace and Addiction and you've been reading it at all, he does a really wonderful job of unpacking the ever-present ego and how we wrestle with that daily and for our whole lives. And if we're sober, not just, hi Carolyn, not speaking about sobriety as in an alcoholic or drug addict, we are just talking about being sober-minded in our belief, just our ability to believe. When we fall into unbelief, that's a lack of sobriety, right? That's what we're really talking about to apply to everybody, whether someone is an addict of a substance or not. So just because a person is sober doesn't mean that that person's ego has died. And that can be really tricky because people who are like, things are going good. I'm like pretty steady. You know, I'm feeling strong and capable in some ways that I typically kind of give into my codependency or my people pleasing or my general addictions, but I'm not doing that. Then we can think, oh, well, the ego, like I've defeated my ego for good. And it's never for good. It might be for a time, but it's never for good because our ego always comes back in some flavor at some point, usually in a place that surprises us. This step helps us to understand that more. Step 10 asks questions like, number 1, was I dishonest, selfish, fearful, or resentful today? Number 2, did I say or do something I should apologize for? Number 3, am I worried about yesterday or tomorrow? Why? Number 4, have I kept something to myself that I need to share with someone? Number 5, was I obviously unloving, unkind, or uncaring somehow? Number 6, who did I interact with that it wasn't a good interaction? Number 7, was I consumed or obsessive about an issue today? Number 8, was I tired, hungry, lonely, or angry today? That acronym is HALT. So sometimes we talk about, how, oh, gosh, today I was just like kind of this way or that way. I was a little bit abrasive. I was short with people. One of the pervasive questions in therapy is to check, were you tired, hungry, lonely, or angry? Were you any of those things? Because typically the most pervasive reason is one of those 4 reasons that we get snippy with people or get short with people. Sometimes it's not a bigger issue. Sometimes I'm just tired. I'm just hungry. Or I'm just lonely, and these things are coming to the surface. Number 9, where or what is an area that I wish I would have done better today? Number 10, do I regret something from today? So those are the kind of questions that you could ask yourself at the end of each day. The passages that I think go best with, that I have found go best with this step, daily review, is in, one of them is in Matthew 26, verse 41. Keep watch and pray so that you will not give in to temptation, for the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. And that's just really talking to my ego. My ego is weak. It will make me think that I'm very strong in some way. Anything that I do good is the Spirit working in and through me. Anything opposed to that would be my actual self, my ego speaking, my flesh, my natural human condition. So to keep watch and pray really is just that reminding me to do that daily review. Like, keep watch and pray about that. Like, think about those things, because if I don't kind of stay aware of those things daily in some way, do some sort of daily review, I can be tempted to think I'm stronger and more capable than I actually am, that I do not have the same pitfalls, or that I have pitfalls I'm not even aware of. I can become, again, my ego can be inflated and give me the impression that I can do more and handle more than I actually can. In Ephesians chapter 4, verses 21 through 24, it says, since you have heard about Jesus and have learned the truth that comes from him, meaning the gospel, throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. That's the ego. That's all the ego speaks about. It's lusting after something, and it's very deceitful. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. So once we know the gospel, we know that there's nothing we need to do for God, that Jesus has done everything for God on our behalf. Since we've heard about that, and then we go to do a daily review, we don't feel bad because we've yet sinned against God again. We are reminded, I'm forgiven for this. I have people that God has placed in my life I can trust to share this with. God can help me be willing, because he loves me, to apologize for these things, to take note of these things, to be honest about these things, to not be in denial about these things. I can trust God with these things that happened today. So it's just a reminder for me that my ego can be extremely deceiving, and that I'm reminded, I'm pushed back to the gospel. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 13, it says, now we see things imperfectly. Today, that's how we see things. We don't see things perfectly. We see things imperfectly, like puzzling reflections in a mirror. But then we will see everything with perfect clarity. Then meaning after our last breath, when we finally are living fully and finally. All that I know now is partial and incomplete, but then I will know everything completely, just as God now knows me completely. So when I think about daily reflection, I still only see part of the story. I don't see it in full. I don't see myself fully, completely. And I certainly don't see things perfectly. My eyesight is still imperfect. My thinking, my feeling, my mental capacities are still broken. I'm still subject to my fallen nature. So to be reminded, because I could be fooled and think, oh, I'm really seeing this issue clearly. What happened today, I see it clearly, and that was totally her fault, and I do not feel bad about it. I don't feel bad about what I said, and that's how I'm going to leave it. And I can fool myself. It's very deceiving. And I can, our ego lusts after that justification, self-justification. We love it. Hi. We love that. So that passage just helps me remember that I see things imperfectly. Puzzling reflections. My prayer prompt for this step, God, prompt me to recall my day, each day, honestly, and encourage me to swiftly attend to those things you would bring to my attention with wisdom and compassion. In the think about it, I have some things I want to read out of this book, but I'll go over them quickly before I read. In think about it, we can ask ourselves the diagnostic questions above, those 10 questions that we went over. We can ask those questions in written form or through prayer. What I do is I have those 10 questions just on a page written out. And so if I go on question 1 is at the top, was I dishonest, selfish, fearful, or resentful today? And I'll write the date. And I'll write yes or no or whatever the answers are. I was selfish or I was fearful, blah, blah, blah. Why? The next page I'll have question 2 and I'll have a date. And so that I can look at the questions and my answers to that same question every day. You don't have to do it this way. I have just found that that's a good way that helps me do it because it makes me answer each question individually and stick just to that answer. So you can, if you don't have time or if you just don't want to do it in written, I always think written form is so therapeutic also. I have found that it is. You could do that through prayer. You could just have this list in front of you and pray those questions. Just pray through those questions. God, was I dishonest, selfish, fearful, or resentful today? Bring that to mind, right now in this moment. The reason I do it in written form is because it can show you over time some patterns that you maybe have that are good or bad. It can show you patterns specific to the questions also. Maybe you're not always dishonest or super selfish, but maybe you find number 3, am I worried about yesterday or tomorrow? Maybe you find that you answered yes a lot to that one. Maybe you're more concerned about an uncertain future more often than you realize. Maybe, so that's why I write it. So it really helps show me some patterns in places where character defects, which we were praying about from previous steps, where they re-emerge. We should all have one trusted person that knows all the details about the most pressing issues in our lives. So again, if you have that person that has been the person you kind of share that list of character defects with, or hi Michelle, or you share your inventory with, that could be one person, it could be a couple people. But when you have that person, you want to have somebody who every time you get together with them, you don't have to start from the beginning and explain again because it's a new person that you're telling. She knows already, she already knows up to this point. She already knows kind of, oh yeah, now what was that again with your mom? How'd that end up? Before we were talking about this and how'd that go? So I love that the big book says going at it alone in spiritual matters is dangerous, which is true. And we're not made for that. We're not made to do that alone. We're made to do that in community with people that care about us and that we can trust and are trustworthy. It's good to remember that we will get this step and every other step wrong. That sounds like not a very big deal, but if you're like me, you like to complete things and you're going to get them right. And so to be reminded that I will get this one wrong and every other step wrong is relieving. And it reminds me that this is not about me perfecting the steps. It's about engaging with them and God helping me through them, setting me free through them, showing me things about myself through them, discovering things about Him through them. This is not about getting them right or wrong. It's about discovering what God has me to discover in this. This is what John Zoll says. Let's not be fooled. We will botch the job of recovery. We will say the wrong thing. We will offend people unintentionally. We will make poor decisions, and we will make them for selfish reasons. Our egos will re-emerge. We will have days when we feel not at all spiritual. This is a normal part of being a human. To quote one old-timer, some days all I am is just sober. That is to say, some days he feels the absence of alcohol more than the presence of any kind of serenity. So even if a person is addicted to a substance, they may be sober where that substance is concerned, but we expect that that means I should feel peace and this harmony and this good feelings, and that's not a good expectation to have, because that's not always what that means. We might be sober-minded, but that doesn't mean that we will have the presence of a serenity that we acknowledge or that we feel, because maybe the circumstances haven't changed. Maybe outwardly around us, it's still hell on earth. It's just a shit show. And so it may not feel peaceful. So just because we're sober-minded, just because I'm believing in what Jesus has done for me, and I'm engaging with these steps, and I'm trying to do daily review, and I'm trying to do these things that I think will help me and heal me and hopefully heal other people. It just doesn't always mean that we're going to feel the serenity that we hope comes with that. And that doesn't mean because sometimes that can be like, well, I might as well just go drink then. I might as well just go do whatever it is. I might as well just talk to those people. I might as well engage with that man or whoever it is, whatever it is, like a toxic relationship, or what does it matter if I don't do this anymore? I might as well go anyway. These are the realities of sin in a fallen world. Step 10 starts from that place. It understands and it offers a way through the missteps and the laziness. Step 10 assumes that the 12 steps will work as well as they have worked. We do not need to acquire more skills. We only need to keep using the ones we have already learned. These focus, of course, on an awareness of our own limitations and continuing presence of our deficits of character, which I think is so true and often left out of a lot of recovery systems that people go through. He closes with, we have already seen how the crucial ingredient of desperation enables miraculous things to happen. So again, even in our daily review, it could push us to go, gosh, I'm not any better than I was last week or yesterday. But that's the desperation that pushes us back to Jesus, pushes us back to go, I can't overcome being this way at work or with these people in my house or whoever it is that I interact with. I just can't get past acting like this or behaving this way or speaking this way or interacting this way with people. The steps are here to remind you that that is normal. That means you're human. That doesn't mean you're failing at it. It means you're human, and that's why we have these. That's why God has given us these steps to engage with, just to help us cope with the fact that we can't make ourselves better, that we can't get better on our own. And so I like that. I need that. And I didn't know that I needed that until I began to engage with the steps in this way. So we will get this step and every other step wrong. Take heart. You will get them wrong. Our ongoing process is cyclical. I say this all the time because I think it is a missed opportunity to help people when we speak in terms of success or progress being linear. Specifically, as a Christian, it has been hammered into the American Christian church culture that progress and sanctification, like getting better, is linear. And that is simply not even biblically true. There's nothing about that that is biblically true. Not one single piece of that that's true. God himself works in cycles. He does everything in a cyclical motion. None of it is just, the only thing that he does that's linear is his one-way love, straight from himself to you. That's the only thing that he does that's just one way. And even that returns. I mean, we love because he first loved us. So even that has a cycle of its own. If it really happens and we're really his, it does. It comes back. So our ongoing process is cyclical, even though the world and Christian community specifically depicts spiritual progress as linear. And so John absolutely believes, John Zoll absolutely believes this. And he says this: despite traditional Christian literature's skepticism about self-help, in practice, the idea of linear progress has also permeated many Christian churches. Too many churches seem to spend their time emphasizing a checklist series of behaviors that need to be put into practice for growth to occur. Their teachings are entirely dominated by moral exhortation and platitudes, only punctuated occasionally with any form of comfort or sensitivity to the realities of daily struggle in the Christian life. As Christian author Michael Horton put it, we are getting dangerously close to the place in everyday American church life where Jesus Christ is a coach with a good game plan for our victory, rather than a Savior who has already achieved it for us. In effect, these churches are dominated by what the Bible calls law, big L law, which is shorthand for any form of moral or ethical demand. It's all about behavior modification. In most churches, no matter what denomination, no matter what size, even the ones that are like, all we do is speak grace here, it's all about grace, no perfect people allowed, they will give you a checklist before you walk out the door, I guarantee it. They will give you an application for that 3-point sermon that they just preached. Even if it is sweet with a bunch of sugar piled on top of it, they will either do it abrasively or they will do it kindly, but they will do it nonetheless. They are going to give you something to walk out the door and do. While the encouraged habits may be desirable, it's not a bad thing. I mean, the 10 Commandments are what tells us how to live a free life. If you want to live a free life and you want to love your neighbor the way you're supposed to, and love me the way, God, the way you're supposed to, follow the 10 Commandments. That's all you got to do. 10 simple rules. So it's not that the law is bad, but we cannot do it. So that is why we need Jesus. And a lot of these, here's how you modify your behavior, here's how you need to change, here's the application of it. The rest is not there in what Jesus has done. Their marching orders are given for you to go do it yourself. Jesus, in that sense, becomes irrelevant. Then what do we rest in then? Where is the rest found in that? Okay, I don't have to do that thing. Now that I know that I don't have to do that for God, maybe, if I really believe the gospel, I might actually be compelled to do it. It's a novel idea. It actually works. And you know this if it's been done to you. If you deserved punishment or you deserved something that you did not get and instead you were given grace and you're like, it's okay. Someone actually gave you something that you didn't deserve when you were like, I am at my most unlovely. Someone offered you forgiveness. Someone offered you kindness and patience or love when you were your most unlovely. You know that didn't make you go, great, thanks, and you just take it and run. Whenever you've been given something, when you know that you are desperately wicked, you are compelled then to be grateful. You are compelled to be that way to someone else. That doesn't compel you to go out and be that same way again to that person. You're like, it doesn't mean you might not. Relapse is part of recovery. So we should expect each other to relapse in unbelief and every other thing that we're addicted to. But law is not the change agent. Law tells us how to live. Love is the change agent. The gospel is the change agent. We can tell each other what to do all day long. The speed limit sign does not make us follow it. That's not what makes us follow the speed limit sign. That's not what makes us follow laws about taxes or anything else. The law itself is not the thing. The consequence might, well, I don't want to get another speeding ticket. I don't want to get my license taken away again. That may change your modification. It may modify your behavior in that place where you normally speed, but that doesn't mean you don't want to speed. And that's what God is really about, isn't he? The heart, the reason, the motivation behind why you want to do that. You still want to speed, you're just not. So you're obeying the law, but your heart is far from wanting to do the law. That's the same point. So behavior modification doesn't change your heart. Only love does that. Only Jesus does that. God is the person who changes hearts. So when and where Christianity or church in general is trying to push this onto somebody, behavior modification onto people, it says, while the encouraged habits may be desirable, of course we want people to act right, whether it's myself or other people in my life. I don't want to be around people who are mean and selfish and abrasive and, all of the things that we can be. Of course we want to have people be loving and kind and patient and all these things. AA would claim that they are not necessarily achievable through the individual's efforts and willpower, regardless of whether or not a person has a serious relationship with God, because this is not about Christian or not Christian. You don't have to be Christian just to want to be a nice person, right? But that's not what the level of the law requires, not just to be a nice person. It's perfect. It's to be a perfect person, inside and out, in every single way. Absolutely perfect. Perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect. You might say that AA suspects human nature to be naturally regressive. We lapse just as much in matters of spirituality as we do in New Year's resolutions. Spiritual progress, or sanctification, that big Christian word for spiritual progress, viewed through the lens of step 10, daily review, is therefore cyclical. We are bound to struggle with sin again and again in spite of our best efforts and desires not to. The main thing that discernibly grows in the experience of coming to know God better is one's dependence upon him and the knowledge of our need for grace, because the struggles of life remain essentially the same for the sober and drinking alcoholic, which is really true. From the outside looking in, AA would appear to have a more pessimistic view of the spiritual life than most Christians are typically willing to acknowledge. AA seems to embrace a more one-way or monergistic way of God's work in the life of a believer. Theologically speaking, this means that those who hold a more optimistic view of human agency, remember, if I think humans are more capable, then I most likely think God is less capable. If I have a high anthropology, I think more about what humans are able to do and able to get rid of in their life, what human effort is, then I think actually less of what God. And so what we're doing is we want to have a high theology. We want to think higher about what God can do and what he has done for us, and lower of what we want to have a low anthropology. That would be a healthy outlook for humans, to have a low anthropology. That person's actually limited. They're human. They are totally depraved. They are going to fail me in some way. I hope they don't, but I'm prepared for them too, because that's more likely. That's actually more accurate, because that's the human nature. That's just true about us, unfortunately. So does the idea of cyclical sanctification deny that people really do change? It doesn't. AA is one of the most lucid examples of the exact sort of change that many churches like to advocate, but the results are achieved through an entirely different set of emphasis, which is really true. We hesitate to call sanctification progress in the moving forward sense, which that's what I love. I think that Tullian says it often, but he's like, maybe a sign of me getting better is realizing that I'm actually worse in some areas, and coming to terms with reality of who I really am. Maybe that is getting better. It doesn't mean that I can just change my behavior like that and quit smoking or quit whatever it is that you want to quit doing. But that is part of the steps. That's part of like realistically approaching whatever character defects or whatever is in your inventory, those patterns that you found that, plague you. So just as often as it is in your face that, you're here, but you want to be here, whatever that map looks like in your head emotionally or mentally, I hope it's a circle. I hope it's cyclical. And remember, it's going to just come back around again. And even if we get past this hard part, this tough season, this one issue, it doesn't mean that issue or something like it, maybe next time around it'll be easier to walk right past it. Walk right past that calendar date. Walk right past, that issue, this Easter, this holiday, this season coming up. But maybe not. I don't know. It's all cyclical. And so that is helpful to remember, just because it keeps us from thinking that we're either climbing rungs on a ladder or that we're going straight and we're never going to cross this again. You're going to cross it in some way, whether we know it or not, or we're really conscious of it or not. You're going to be like, gosh, I thought I got past that with that person. It's because it's cyclical. Because when God's ready to bring you back to something, he'll bring it back to you somehow. Who are we to become through using the steps? John Zoll says there are no real goals, which I like that. We prepare for tomorrow by reconciling today, which is what this step is all about, daily review. So it's just about today. For the alcoholic, they've coined that phrase, one day at a time, and they really mean it. Like you just take it one day at a time. Because when we look like, well, 10 years from now, I want to be married, and I want to have kids, and I want to have a house, and I want to do this, and I want to be finished with school, and I want to have this job. And so that can be part of the reason that you became an alcoholic to begin with, because you have all these expectations of yourself. And it's not a bad thing to set goals, but for the love of God, put them in pencil, because they might not be the goals that God has for you. They might not be in the plan for you. And so when we have these, what's the goal of the steps? It's to set you free. That's the whole purpose of all this, to set you free somehow. To engage with the steps in a way that will set you free a little at a time over the course of time. Not to just get to the end of them and you go, well, I'm not better. I've done all 12 steps and what the hell? I'm literally the same as when I started. I don't feel any different whatsoever. That might be the case. It might be the case for a long time, for many, many years. But it's probably not. If the steps are actually engaging with you, that probably won't be the case. I haven't yet seen somebody who's actually engaging with them, honestly, that they're not changed, that they don't actually see change that they had nothing to do with, really, that God birthed in them. And so for us to not really have a goal except to start using these steps to engage with our daily life, just to cope with life, that's really what they're for. They're just steps to help us cope with life, because we're all coping with it somehow anyway. You're here today. We're all here because somehow we muddled through the day using some sort of coping skills, for better or for worse. And that's really everybody's doing that. Everybody is hurt, living with the fact that they've hurt other people. How we are coping with those things is part of this whole entire story. It's the cyclical nature of it. That's all we're doing. We're coping with those truths in some way, whether for good reasons or bad reasons, in good ways or bad ways. And so these steps are really just to help us engage with that truth in a healthier way, like in a way that might produce different results. You've heard the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So maybe try the steps, like in a different way, in a way that's actually, theologically pointing to God instead of pointing to myself. Maybe that's what really engages me. is when I become less relevant in the whole equation, where God is more relevant to the fixing than I am. One of the things that John Saul says on page 206, I don't think I wrote that down on the notes, but I have it in here. He says this: it's as though looking back takes precedent over looking forward, this daily review in step 10. And we could say that about step 4, inventory also. This is indeed the case with the 12 steps. And it operates on the insight that if we wish to have a bright future, we must deal with the past on a daily basis. Coping with life, that's really what we're doing. Such reconciliation, remember, reconciliation just means making peace with. We're reconciled to God, so we have peace with Him. So such reconciliation, such peace, that peace with whatever it is, allows us to live in the present and leave the future up to its own devices. Sometimes when there's more in the past that's been reconciled and there's more peace there with those issues and those people and those seasons of life, or just today, when there's more peace with whatever happened today, I don't catastrophize tomorrow as much. I don't worry about the future as much. And if you've done any inventory work, if you've done any work engaging with the steps, you've certainly felt that. You've certainly felt a little less concerned with tomorrow. When I used to be like going to sleep every night and I would have like all these, running lists in my head about got to do this tomorrow and this has to happen and this has to happen by Friday and this has to happen by next week and then by the end of the month this and then by the end of the summer this. And we could drive ourselves nuts. And we do drive ourselves nuts. But this is the whole point. It's one day at a time, and it's a daily review like this is sometimes an easier place to start than your formal inventory that's in step 4, just because sometimes people are in a place where this is easier. So it's not that we cannot go from step 1 to 12 in total in every aspect of our lives. We are in and on every step at all times in all areas of our lives. So daily review is just going, what today? Where was I like an ass today to somebody? What do I regret from today? What did I say that I really feel terrible that I said that to them, or heard that and then repeated it, or what was I really worried about? What happened to me today, or what thoughts came to mind that I really need to share with someone, because I know if I don't, it'll be hidden, it'll be a secret place, that bad things will happen, I will not do anything good with this, I need to share it with somebody. That can be an easy present thing to do, instead of like going to revisit everything in step 4, those 5 inventory lists. Sometimes doing daily review can help you get to a place where you want to start looking at that inventory that comes with step 4. So that concludes our notes for week 8, which is step 10, daily review.